Hi, YouTubers. This is going to be the last part of the Yugoslav Attack lectures. And in this one, I actually went on the database and I looked up a game between Hove and Lang. They're both international masters. And I wanted to get actually a higher profile game originally, but I couldn't find anything in the exact line that I wanted to look at. And I wanted to pick something, where white succeeded tactically in this line, and it's actually a really good line for black, is what I discovered, because a lot of the games, white was going wrong, and black was getting a good game after various rook sacrifices, which I'll show you guys. But I'll quickly go through the opening moves here, which we should all be familiarized at this point with. And so we get to the main position here with the, remember, g4 first, sacrificing a pawn to open the h file, playing f4, pushing the knight to c4, and then playing queen e2 to put pressure on the knight. And remember, there's three different moves in this position. There's the most obvious b5. There's a move that was pioneered by Kramnik, knight a5, which actually seems good. That is what we looked at in the last video. And as you saw, the white doesn't get any, at best, white gets an even endgame. So it's a really good line, underrated line for black, I would say. And in this video, we're going to look at queen c8. And remember, b5 is always met by f5. Knight a5, we're going to meet by playing e5 here, hitting the center, and then queen c8 is what was played in this game, and white played the best move, the best plan, which is actually a little bit counterintuitive, but he exchanges his dark square bishop here in order to play knight d5. You see, with the queen's position on c8, this is sort of highlighting the weakness, is that now when the bishop is hit, the bishop can't retreat without giving up the e7 pawn with check. And so either black has to accept, double pawns, or has to do something else. And that something else, black can solve tactically with the rook takes d5 here. Now, you will also see b5, and that's a line you're going to have to look into on your own. Normally, b5, we go h5 here, and you'll see something a little bit similar to that in the game. And normally, this rook here on the c file sacrifices itself in almost every situation at some point. Maybe not immediately, maybe first black plays b5 and then goes for rook takes d5 sacrifice. But either way, this rook tends to give itself up, and I think rook takes d5 here is probably the best move. E takes d5, okay, and then b5. So we're just reinforcing the knight after the rook sacrifice. White plays h5 here, and after g5, he just takes on g5, bishop takes g5 check, king b1, and queen c5 was played in the game, which is probably a good move. It's a nice square for the queen. The queen's pretty safe on that square. It also kind of clears the way for the rook to join in and try to get some kind of attack going on the queen side. But this is going to be very double-edged, which is what you should expect from these Yugoslav Attack games. Is the game's always going to be double-edged, and you're going to have to find your way through this. So h6 is what was played in the game. Obviously, black can't take that pawn. So bishop f6, just putting another attacker on that knight in the center, and this beautiful move, knight e6, was played in the game, and so black takes the knight, which he should. But now, instead of retaking the pawn here, white does this in between queen takes g4, and now king g8. He met rook d to g1 here, and it was at this point when I think, well, queen g4 was played in the game, queen d4 was played in the game, but a possible improvement here. You see there's a lot of threats with white still controlling these two files, the G file and the H file. Queen d4 doesn't exactly look like a mistake. It looks like it's a nice move that defends and also attacks. And it's very intuitive. And this is why I'm suggesting that you guys go for this line, because we're always looking for lines that that our opponent has to play in a counterintuitive way. If we force our opponent to play in a counterintuitive way, it's very likely that they're going to make mistakes. And that's exactly what happened in this game, which ended beautifully after queen d4. But first, we're going to look at a really good move from black. And this sort of goes back to look at checks, captures, and threats first. And it's a check that you should always consider here. There's a knight check here, right? And just turning on the engine. For example, king c1. And it turns out black wins this, or exchanges the knight for the bishop. And now black can follow up with rook c8, just dominating the c file and creating threats here. And the game goes on, but this is the way black should have got some counterplay in this line. And I don't know if he was on tilt or what, but an international master here played the move queen d4, which to the naked eye looks really good. Okay, he's creating threats on b2 here. He's defending g7. This looks okay, right? But then the shocking queen g7 check comes. And black actually just resigned right here, believe it or not. And why did he resign? Well, if you take the queen here, then just h takes g7 check, right? So obviously you can't take here because this is a check. And king g8, well, rook h8 check, and the king has to go to f7 here. Well, we just take with a queen and a checkmate. And that's the line that he probably saw when he resigned. He resigned in this position. So this is a really nice line to go for. And even if they do find this counterplay move, this knight d2 check, which is probably actually slightly better for black, but even if they do find this, you can play on here. You can push your pawn. Yeah, they can check you, and it's going to continue to be double-edged, but it's worth going for just because it's, you know, it's a very complicated line that that might confuse your opponent. And I thought that was a really nice game to cover that shows just how white can dominate the G and the H files. And even if black plays intuitive moves, can find himself in a lot of tactical trouble. Okay, so that's going to wrap things up for this lecture, and I hope you guys learned a lot. Thank you.